Maren Thorne's stormsole braces were emptied from a patrol crate onto the ice of Brinefall Storm Yard, while Patrol Master Valen Orst read their faults aloud. Non-standard hide, private resin cure, unapproved fitting marks. The last words drew the quietest smiles from the handlers. Not open laughter. That would have at least admitted cruelty. They only glanced at the dark chalk lines sewn beneath each sole, the tendon notches, the heel gaps cut wider for salt swelling, and looked away as if a widow's work had become embarrassing the moment an office named it undocumented. Maren stood with her hands folded before her stained apron. 13 winters had carved her knuckles into hard ridges. She had measured claw spread in freezing kennels, stitched stormhide around living tendon, burned resin into leather until her lungs tasted bitter for days. The wolves did not thank her. They simply came home walking. Alpha King Alaric Voss watched from beneath the arch at the head of the yard. Once, long before his crown had settled into command, he had sat in a border shelter with both feet ruined by icebite, while Maren wrapped heat and stormsole around him and promised not to let the court see their future king unable to stand. He remembered enough to look away before command hardened his face again. The patrol budget will not be ruled by unregistered private fitting. As if the work that kept wolves whole became vanity because it had passed through a woman's hands. Valen bowed with the clean satisfaction of a man whose recommendation had reached the throne. The issued military gear passed yard inspection, Your Majesty. Standard straps, standard soles, easy accounts, lower cost. No patrol wolf should require unregistered fitting marks before serving the border. Yard inspection measured symmetry, cost, and speed. It did not measure what salt wind did to a strap under a living tendon. Maren looked at the replacement gear lined in neat rows, black leather, bright buckles, iron claw studs polished for inspection. Handsome gear. Handsome gear could pass inspection before it met weather. Has it been tested in the storm fields? She asked. Valen turned his head slightly. It has been inspected here. The yard is not the storm field. Several young guards shifted. A wolf named Bracken lifted one paw in his kennel and set it down again, ears low. Alaric's gaze narrowed. Careful, Maren. She felt his warning like cold water poured into an old scar. Her grief had been tolerated when it stitched quietly. It became defiance only when it asked a king to read what men had overlooked. I am naming the difference between inspected leather and living paws. The yard went still. Valen's mouth hardened. Her late husband's failed storm route has made every patrol order personal to her. Maren did not flinch. Grief had taught her what men preferred not to inspect. It had taught her how a strap could freeze across tendon, how salt could enter a heel split before blood reached the surface, how a wolf could keep running long enough for officers to call the gear acceptable. Grief was not evidence. Not yet. Alaric looked away first. Remove her braces from active issue, he said. Patrols run at dusk in approved gear. Valen ordered the crates cleared. Maren watched her stormsole braces carried to the side rack like discarded blankets. One pair bore Bracken's name, burned inside the heel. Another held a widened left tendon gap for a young white wolf that dragged when tired. She had not made them beautiful. She had made them honest. At fitting time, the issued gear looked perfect from a distance. Buckles sat in military lines. Studs caught the torchlight. Valen walked the row with approval in every step. Maren saw the failures before the storm could. Iron at the claw bend, stiff leather over tendon, no salt gap under the heel. That buckle will ice lock, she said, pointing to Bracken's paw. The old fitting ledger would show why. Iron at the claw bend, stiff leather over tendon, no salt gap under the heel. Valen did not look at the paw. Remove her from the fitting line. 2 guards took Maren by the arms. They did not drag her. They used respect like a softer kind of force, and guided her past the racks while Bracken stared after her. Alaric watched, for one breath. She thought he might remember the shelter. His fevered hand gripping her wrist, his whispered order that no one know how close frostbite came to ending his reign before it began. She had kept his weakness warmer than he had kept her dignity. He said nothing. At dusk, the patrol ran into the white storm beyond Brynefall. By moonrise, the first howl returned wrong. It came thin through the eastern gate, then broke into a sound no handler mistook for victory. Alaric turned before any captain spoke. His wolf heard suffering before men found words. The patrol came through one by one. Every wolf was limping. The wounds were not random. They repeated with the discipline Valen had praised. Pale glass, salt cracks beneath the heel, black frost bruising across the tendon bend, bloodless cuts where iron had frozen hard against claw spread. Bracken collapsed first, his shoulder striking the ice. No one told Maren to move. She was already kneeling. Her hands went to Bracken's paw. Not Alaric's face. Not Valen's silence. Not the watching yard that had let her work be shamed. She cut the frozen strap away with her belt knife and pressed resin salve into the pale split. Hot cloths, not flame. Boiled wool. Now. No one moved until Alaric said, "Do it." Then Brynefall obeyed the widow it had mocked. Only after Bracken stopped shaking did Maren reach for the discarded braces on the rack. The old braces did not move. They did not glow. They did not save what men had already harmed. She laid his old brace beside the failed issued gear. The chalk had darkened from old pressure, not magic. It showed where Bracken always strained when the storm pushed him sideways. Heel strain. Claw spread. Salt bite line. Tendon bend. Every mark matched Bracken's wound, and if the other braces matched the other wolves, Valen's yard inspection had not missed one flaw. It had missed the pattern. The next question was not whether Maren had loved the wolves. It was why Valen's inspection had passed gear that the Stormfield failed in one run. The next record would have to show who removed Stormfield testing from the approval sheet. Bracken's wounded paw did not prove Valen Orst had meant to cripple the patrol. It only marked the exact strapline his yard inspection had never tested. Maren Thorne did not lift her eyes from the wolf's paw until the salve stopped steaming against the glass salt cracks. Pain made rooms hungry for blame. One wolf collapsed in front of an alpha king, and every guard wanted one clean culprit before anyone had to read the papers. Maren had buried a husband after men chose speed over fit. She would not let another wound be ruined by hurry. "Do not move him," she said. "If Bracken stands too soon, the tendon bruise will split." Valen Orst's face remained composed. Treatment authority belongs to the patrol healer. The patrol healer can confirm after I stop the salt from eating father. Alaric Voss watched the old brace beside the failed issued gear. The pressure chalk beneath Bracken's stormsole had darkened in 4 places. Heel strain, claw spread, salt bite line, tendon bend. The same 4 places marked the injured paw. "Compare the others," Alaric said. Not apology, not trust. An order forced out by matching evidence. Maren was not invited back to the fitting line. The scribe entered her status as technical witness for pressure comparison only, under patrol supervision. Technical witness meant her hands were useful. It did not mean her judgment had been restored. Handlers brought forward the braces she had made for the remaining patrol wolves. Old stormhide, blackened resin seams, dull chalk stitched where pressure gathered during sideways wind. One by one, the wounded wolves were carried to the treatment mat. Their paws shook. Their breath smoked. One young wolf showed cuts where issued iron had frozen at the claw bend. His old brace showed a dark claw, spread mark. Another had black bruising across the front tendon, matched by the relief gap Valen's gear did not have. A third had a heel split where salt had packed beneath a flat military sole. Maren's brace showed a widened heel gap. The scribe's voice lost steadiness. Pressure marks correspond with injury sites on 4 wolves. 4 wolves are not the whole patrol, Valen said. No, Maren said. They are enough to open the ledger. Alaric looked toward him. Issued gear, approval sheet. A clerk ran for the procurement box. While they waited, the patrol healer examined Bracken's paw. Tendon bruising. Strap. Freeze. Cut. Salt bite beginning under heel. Treatment. Correct. No one thanked her. Gratitude would have been cheaper than authority, and Alaric offered neither. The approval sheet arrived, sealed in blue wax. Valen broke it himself and handed it to the royal scribe without hesitation. Maren marked the restraint. A man hiding a crime could look calm. A man following a bad system could look the same. The scribe read, Standard patrol gear. Pattern 7. Yard tests completed. Buckle closure. Flat ice drag. Paw length symmetry. Sole weight. Cost efficiency. Storage count. And formation appearance. Every listed test could be performed on dead leather. Stormfield test, Alaric asked. The scribe searched the page. Not listed. Saltwind tendon load? Maren asked. Not listed. Sideways run under living weight? Not listed. Valen's voice stayed measured. The approval sheet followed the revised equipment standard. Stormfield runs are not required for every replacement pattern when yard durability has passed. Not required was not the same as unnecessary. The yard is not the Stormfield, Maren said, softer, because the wounded wolves had already said it louder. Alaric's gaze cut to the page. Who signed standard strap design? Pattern drawn by Military Leather Office, revised under Patrol Procurement Review. Final yard approval signed by Valen Orst as Patrol Master. Design acceptance certified by Quartermaster Sella Breck. Who removed the tendon relief gap? Maren asked. The scribe turned the page. Revision note. Tendon relief gap removed. 2. Standardize strap length and reduce cut variance. Reason. Uniform issue across patrol sizes. Cost reduction, Alaric said. The procurement clerk answered too quickly. 28% per set, Your Majesty. 31% if long-run replacement stock is counted. The number was clean. The paws were not. Valen said, Brinefall has 47 active patrol wolves and 2 border storms every 10 nights. Cost is not greed. It is supply survival. Maren looked at the wolves shivering on the mats. A cheaper strap becomes expensive when it opens a paw. The scribe wrote it because Alaric did not forbid him. Full report or summary, Alaric said. What reached me? The royal clerk opened the king's packet. Summary only. Recommendation. Replace private fitted stormsole braces with standard issue gear after successful yard inspection and procurement reduction. No attachment of field. Test absence. No pressure ledger attached. A summary could make absence sound like approval. Alaric's face went still. Maren did not look at him. If she did, she might remember him barefoot and shaking, might remember the boy beneath the crown who had once known a body could betray command. Tonight he had held a summary over living paws. That was the record. Not his shame, not her comfort. Old fitting ledger, he ordered. Her ledger was brought from the discarded crate, pages stiff with resin and salt. Maren opened Bracken's entry because no one else knew the marks well enough. Bracken, outer claw spread in east wind runs, heel swelling after long salt exposure, tendon gap required, Stormfield retest every 3rd winter. The scribe compared it to the issued pattern. Issued gear lacks all 3 adjustments. Other wolves? Alaric asked. Maren turned pages. Each has a pressure map. Each should be matched before the next patrol moves. Valen's eyes narrowed. That could take all night. Then the border waits for wolves who can walk. The silence after that was not approval. It was fear wearing discipline. The old storm route register was pulled to verify her ledger number. The scribe followed the cross-reference. and stopped at a stained page marked with her husband's name, Maren Thorne. North brine root failure. Gear condition. Strap fracture at tendon bend. Salt. Bite under heel. Field test not attached. Maren's hand stopped on the page. The record did not solve his death. It did not prove Valen had wronged him. It only showed the same missing test line beside another storm route. Alaric saw the name before she could cover it. The next question was not whether grief had made Maren personal. It was how many patrol failures had been filed as weather before anyone measured the gear. The next record would have to show who removed storm field testing from the standard, and how many dead routes had been filed under weather instead of gear. Bracken's wounded paw did not prove Valen Orst had meant to cripple the patrol. It only marked the exact strapline his yard inspection had never tested. Maren Thorne did not lift her eyes from the wolf's paw until the salve stopped steaming against the glass salt cracks. Pain made rooms hungry for blame. One wolf collapsed in front of an alpha king, and every guard wanted one clean culprit before anyone had to read the papers. Maren had buried a husband after men chose speed over fit. She would not let another wound be ruined by hurry. "Do not move him," she said. "If Bracken stands too soon, the tendon bruise will split." Valen Orst's face remained composed. Treatment authority belongs to the patrol healer. The patrol healer can confirm after I stop the salt from eating farther. Alaric Voss watched the old brace beside the failed issued gear. The pressure chalk beneath Bracken's stormsole had darkened in 4 places. Heel strain, claw spread, salt bite line, tendon bend. The same 4 places marked the injured paw. "Compare the others," Alaric said. Not apology, not trust. An order forced out by matching evidence. Maren was not invited back to the fitting line. The scribe entered her status as technical witness for pressure comparison only, under patrol supervision. Technical witness meant her hands were useful. It did not mean her judgment had been restored. Handlers brought forward the braces she had made for the remaining patrol wolves. Old stormhide, blackened resin seams, dull chalk stitched where pressure gathered during sideways wind. One by one, the wounded wolves were carried to the treatment mat. Their paws shook. Their breath smoked. One young wolf showed cuts where issued iron had frozen at the claw bend. His old brace showed a dark claw, spread mark. Another had black bruising across the front tendon, matched by the relief gap Valen's gear did not have. A third had a heel split, where salt had packed beneath a flat military sole. Maren's brace showed a widened heel gap. The scribe's voice lost steadiness. Pressure marks correspond with injury sites on 4 wolves. 4 wolves are not the whole patrol, Valen said. No, Maren said. They are enough to open the ledger. Alaric looked toward him. Issued. Gear approval sheet. A clerk ran for the procurement box. While they waited, the patrol healer examined Bracken's paw. Tendon bruising. Strap freeze cut. Salt bite beginning under heel. Treatment correct. No one thanked her. Gratitude would have been cheaper than authority, and Alaric offered neither. The approval sheet arrived sealed in blue wax. Valen broke it himself and handed it to the royal scribe without hesitation. Maren marked the restraint. A man hiding a crime could look calm. A man following a bad system could look the same. The scribe read, Standard patrol gear, pattern 7, yard tests completed, buckle closure, flat, ice drag, paw length symmetry, sole weight, cost efficiency, storage count, and formation appearance. Every listed test could be performed on dead leather. Stormfield test, Alaric asked. The scribe searched the page. Not listed. Salt wind tendon load? Maren asked. Not listed. Sideways run under living weight? Not listed. Valen's voice stayed measured. The approval sheet followed the revised equipment standard. Stormfield runs are not required for every replacement pattern when yard durability has passed. Not required was not the same as unnecessary. "The yard is not the Stormfield," Maren said, softer, because the wounded wolves had already said it louder. Alaric's gaze cut to the page. "Who signed standard strap design? Pattern drawn by Military Leather Office, revised under Patrol Procurement Review, final yard approval, signed by Valen Orst as Patrol Master. Design acceptance certified by Quartermaster Seller Breck." "Who removed the tendon relief gap?" Maren asked. The scribe turned the page. "Revision note. Tendon relief gap removed to standardize strap length and reduce cut variance. Reason, uniform issue across patrol sizes. Cost reduction," Alaric said. The procurement clerk answered too quickly. 28% per set, Your Majesty. 31% if long-run replacement stock is counted. The number was clean. The paws were not. Valen said, "Brinefall has 47 active patrol wolves and 2 border storms every 10 nights. Cost is not greed. It is supply survival." Maren looked at the wolves shivering on the mats. "A cheaper strap becomes expensive when it opens a pore." The scribe wrote it because Alaric did not forbid him. "Full report or summary," Alaric said. "What reached me?" The royal clerk opened the king's packet. "Summary only. Recommendation. Replace private fitted stormsole braces with standard issue gear after successful yard inspection and procurement reduction. No attachment of field test absence. No pressure ledger attached." A summary could make absence sound like approval. Alaric's face went still. Maren did not look at him. If she did, she might remember him barefoot and shaking, might remember the boy beneath the crown who had once known a body could betray command. Tonight he had held a summary over living paws. That was the record. Not his shame, not her comfort. "Old-fitting ledger," he ordered. Her ledger was brought from the discarded crate, pages stiff with resin and salt. Maren opened Bracken's entry because no one else knew the marks well enough. Bracken. Outer claw spread in east wind runs. Heel swelling after long salt exposure. Tendon gap required. Stormfield retest every 3rd winter. The scribe compared it to the issued pattern. Issued gear lacks all 3 adjustments. "Other wolves?" Alaric asked. Maren turned pages. "Each has a pressure map. Each should be matched before the next patrol moves." Valen's eyes narrowed. "That could take all night. Then the border waits for wolves who can walk." The silence after that was not approval. It was fear, wearing discipline. The old storm route register was pulled to verify her ledger number. The scribe followed the cross-reference and stopped at a stained page marked with her husband's name. Maren Thorne, North Brine route failure. Gear condition, strap fracture at tendon bend. Salt, bite under heel. Field test not attached. Maren's hand stopped on the page. The record did not solve his death. It did not prove Valen had wronged him. It only showed the same missing test line beside another storm route. Alaric saw the name before she could cover it. The next question was not whether grief had made Maren personal. It was how many patrol failures had been filed as weather before anyone measured the gear. The next record would have to show who removed Stormfield testing from the standard and how many dead routes had been filed under weather instead of gear. The missing Stormfield test did not prove Valen Orst had meant to cripple the wolves. It only showed Pattern 7 had been approved by tests no living patrol could safely rely on. Maren Thorne kept one hand on Bracken's shoulder while the approval route was unrolled across the treatment table. The old wolf had stopped shivering, but stopped was not healed. His paw lay wrapped in boiled wool and resin dressing, the black frost bruising still spreading beneath the fur in a shape too neat to be called weather. Around him the other patrol wolves breathed in pain-heavy silence. Some had paws lifted in slings. Some only watched the handlers with eyes dulled by trust broken through leather. Alaric Voss stood at the center of the yard. He had not apologized. He had not restored Maren's fitting authority. He had only ordered the next record because the field test line was blank, and the wolves were too injured for any man to call the blank harmless. "Approval route," he said. The royal scribe read from the pattern, 7 packet. Original draft. Military leather office. Purpose. Standard patrol gear for winter border use. Draft requirements. Buckle closure. Paw length symmetry. Sole weight. Flat ice drag. Storage count. Formation appearance. Margin note. Storm field trial. Recommended if tendon relief gap is altered. Maren looked up. Recommended. Valen's voice remained controlled. A recommendation is not a requirement. No, she said. It is a warning before a requirement becomes a wound. The note had not forbidden the change. It had named the test that should have followed it. Revision route, Alaric said. Patrol procurement review. Converted storm field trial recommendation into yard durability. Substitute under supply standardization. Tendon relief gap removed for uniform strap length. Field trial not required if yard inspection passed. Requirement had been changed after the danger was named. Who signed that conversion? Alaric asked. The scribe turned the packet. Review notation prepared by procurement clerk Joran Vale. Cost assessment attached. Quartermaster Alaric, certified material availability and storage efficiency. Patrol Master Valen Orst signed final yard approval after inspection. Alaric stood near the supply crates, grey-braided and stiff-backed. My certification was storage and issue capacity, Your Majesty. I did not certify tendon safety under salt wind. Valen glanced at her. The review packet treated yard durability as sufficient. That is what I certified within, Sella said. Not what the storm would do to living paws. Not innocence. Not guilt. Scope. Maren felt the words settle into her bones. Men could hide behind scope, but scope also showed where responsibility stopped and absence began. Valen, Alaric said. Your final yard approval was based on what? Yard inspection, procurement review, and military leather office draft. Valen answered. All proper, all sealed, all within current standard. Did you see the margin note? A pause. Small, but real. I saw the final revision packet, Valen said. The margin note was not carried into the summary sheet. Maren did not move. Bracken's ear twitched beneath her hand. King's packet, Alaric ordered. The royal clerk brought the summary he had received before approving the replacement. Prepared by Border Supply Desk. Delivered through Crown Kennel Office. Contents. Cost reduction. Standard issue benefits. Successful yard inspection. Recommendation to remove private fitted braces from active issue. Attachment submitted. Pressure ledger. Old fitting ledger. Full military leather draft. And Stormfield recommendation margin. A summary could make absence sound like approval. Who prepared the summary? Supply Underclerk Halvan Rusk. Reviewed by Crown Kennel Office for royal decision. A small office could make a king's decision smaller before it reached his hand. Valen spoke before anyone could make the name a weapon. Summaries are how kings rule large borders. No throne can read every fitting ledger. Maren's answer came quietly. Then someone must decide which pane is too small to summarize away. The yard went silent except for the wolves breathing. Alaric looked to the archive box. Prior route failures filed as weather. The archive keeper opened the failure index. 5 winter routes in 8 years show poor or gear condition notes. 3 filed as weather collapse. 1 filed as handler delay. 1 filed as route failure. Maren Thorne, Alaric said. Maren's fingers pressed into Bracken's fur. The keeper found the indexed page. Maren Thorne. North Brine route failure. Gear condition. Strap fracture at tendon bend. Salt. Bite under heel. Field test not attached. Cause filed. Weather severity. And late return. The words were not new. Hearing them under the same approval sheet made them crueler. Does this prove Merit's gear failed for the same reason? Alaric asked. No, Your Majesty, the scribe answered. It proves his route contains similar gear condition language and the same absence of field test attachment. Maren breathed once through her nose. She had asked the same question for years and been called grieving. Tonight the record asked it and received better manners. Other failures, Alaric said. The keeper read them. Route 7. 2 wolves retired after tendon splits. Gear note. Heel salt packing. Field test not attached. Filed weather. West Glass Run. 1 wolf lost claw function. Gear note. Strap freeze. Filed terrain. South Brine watch. Paw bruising across tendon line. Field test not attached. Filed weather. Valen's face tightened, but his discipline held. Those records come from different seasons, different gear lots, different storms. Maren nodded. Different routes can share a missing test. Pressure comparison, Alaric ordered. Not tonight, Maren said. Every head turned. She kept her hand on Bracken. The wolves must be stabilized first. Pressure maps can wait until they are not shaking. If the record matters, it can survive until morning. Technical witness status remains, Alaric said. Treatment first. Record sealed under guard. Not apology. Not restoration. But the wolves came before the papers because she had forced that order into the room. Then the archive keeper lifted one more slip from the failure index. Your Majesty, there is an equipment return note attached to Maren Thorne's route. It was not filed with the death cause. Maren's heart turned cold. Alaric looked at the slip. Read heading only. The keeper swallowed. Recovered brace stock redirected after North Brine route. Usable stormhide transferred to patrol procurement review. Redirected was not guilt. It was custody. The note did not say Maren had been killed for gear. It did not say Valen had touched his route. It only said the material from her husband's failed patrol had entered a procurement route connected to the later Pattern 7 review. The next file would have to show who received Maren's stormhide, who valued it, and whether its batch mark returned inside Pattern 7. The recovered stormhide note did not reopen Maren Thorne's death. It only showed his failed route had left material custody inside the same procurement chain that approved Pattern 7. Maren Thorne did not touch the old note. Her hands belonged to the wolves first. Bracken's breathing had steadied beneath boiled wool, but steadied was not healed. The glass salt cracks along his paw still needed warmth, salve, and stillness more than any courtroom hunger for a cleaner answer. Across the treatment mats, 3 other wolves slept in pain-heavy exhaustion while handlers kept cloths warm over damaged tendon lines. Alaric Voss looked at the equipment return note without asking her to step forward. That restraint was not kindness, it was procedure, and procedure was the only ground she trusted tonight. Inventory file, he said. The archive keeper brought a narrow ledger bound in salt-stiffened hide. Recovered brace stock from North Brine route. Received 3 days after Maren Thorne's route failure by patrol inventory keeper Order Cress. Condition: storm damage. Blood salt. Usable stormhide sections. Batch marks recorded from original fitting stock. Maren's throat tightened, but she kept her hand on Bracken's shoulder. Maren had come back wrapped in a cloak. His gear had apparently returned with more paperwork than his last words. Batch mark, Alaric said. The keeper read, F12, Brinehide, Pharaoh, Thorn fitting lot, resin cure winter grade, 4 heel panels, 6 tendon guards, 2 claw spread strips recovered. Valen Orst stood near the procurement table, face controlled. Recovered material is routinely inventoried. Border supply cannot burn usable stormhide because grief has touched it. Maren looked at him then. No one asked it to be burned. Her voice did not rise. That made the words harder to dismiss. The valuation record was opened next. Order Cress transferred recovered stock to Patrol Procurement Review for salvage valuation. Valuation prepared by Material Assessor Bren Holt. Finding: high-grade stormhide, suitable for repair stock or pattern reference. Not recommended for standard mass issue due to irregular cuts. Pattern reference, Maren said. The scribe looked toward Alaric. Enter the question, the king ordered. Maren remained technical witness only. The scribe wrote that her question was permitted as fitting material inquiry, not restored authority. The line stung less than it should have because the wolves were still breathing. Date of transfer, Alaric said. 5 winters before Pattern 7 approval, the keeper answered. Transferred to procurement review on the 9th day after North Brine route closure. Death judgment remained closed, Alaric asked. Yes, your majesty. Cause filed as weather severity and late return. Material transfer did not alter death judgment. Not exoneration. Not accusation. Custody. Pattern 7 material ledger, Alaric said. The procurement clerk brought a newer book, clean enough to look dishonest, even if it was not. Pattern 7 trial materials. Treated brine leather, iron claw studs, standard buckle stock, low resin sole stiffener. Reference materials consulted. F12. Brinehide fitting lot, stormsole brace samples, military leather office winter draft. Maren felt the yard narrow. Did F12 become Pattern 7 gear? Alaric asked. No, the clerk said. It appears as reference material only. Final gear used lower-cost treated brine leather. Valen spread one hand. Then Maren Thorne's recovered stock was not used to make tonight's failed gear. No, Maren said. It was used to know what the failed gear was replacing. That silence was different. Not belief. Recognition of a sharper question. Celebreck stepped closer to the ledger. Reference means procurement review saw high-grade fitting stock before approving cheaper material. Did your certification include reference review? Alaric asked her. My certification was storage and issue capacity, Sella said. I received the final material list, not every reference sample. Again, scope. The word had begun to sound less like defense and more like a map of missing rooms. Who approved lower-cost material? Alaric asked. The scribe read, Material substitution prepared by procurement clerk Joran Vale. Cost reduction, 28% per set. Review note. Stormhide quality unnecessary for standard issue if yard durability tests pass. Final approval route through patrol procurement review. Yard approval by Patrol Master Valen Orst. Field. Test recommendation. Maren asked. Before or after valuation. The ledger route was compared in order. The old F12 valuation was 5 winters old, stored in reference files. The military leather draft margin recommended Stormfield trial if tendon relief gap was altered. The material substitution came later. The requirement change came after both the old valuation and the new draft warning. The scribe entered it carefully. Procurement had prior reference to high-grade stormsole material before substituting lower-cost brine leather. Stormfield recommendation was removed after the draft warning, during revision to yard durability standard. Valen's jaw tightened. That is still not malice. It is standardization under shortage. Cost is not guilt, Maren said. But cost cannot be the only test that survives. Alaric looked at the wolves. His face did not soften. If anything, it grew colder. Records sealed. No next patrol in Pattern 7 gear. Valen turned sharply. Your Majesty, the border waits for paws that can hold it. The words were. Maren's answer returned through a king's mouth, but they did not restore her. They did not erase the yard's smiles. They only stopped the next wound. The archive keeper hesitated over one more attached slip. There is a disposition note for remaining F12 stock. Alaric's eyes narrowed. Read heading. Reference stock. Divided. 2 panels retained in procurement review. Remaining stormhide released under private salvage permit. Maren went still. Private salvage was not theft. It was not murder. It did not say Valen had sold anything, or that Merit died for material. It only meant the storm hide that had once protected patrol paws had partly left the patrol system after being valued as too irregular for standard issue. Permit holder, Alaric said. The keeper swallowed. Registered to North Quarry Hunt Company. Authorized through Patrol Surplus Desk. Valen said, Surplus desks release unusable irregular stock by rule. Maren looked down at Bracken's wrapped paw, then at the Pattern 7 ledger. The next file would have to show why material too irregular for patrol wolves was valuable enough to leave under private hunt permit. The private hunt permit did not prove patrol stormhide had been stolen from the wolves. It only proved material declared too irregular for royal service had become useful the moment private hunters were willing to pay for it. Maren Thorne kept Bracken's paw lifted in her lap while the surplus file was opened. The old wolf had finally stopped fighting sleep, but the tremor in his injured leg still returned whenever cold crept through the dressing. Around him, the other patrol wolves lay under boiled wool, stabilized enough to breathe without keening, not healed enough to stand. That distinction mattered. A court could grow impatient with records. A wound could not. Alaric Voss stood over the material ledger with the stillness of a king who had learned one summary too late. He did not ask Maren to come to the table. He did not change her status. The scribe entered her again as technical witness for fitting and material comparison only. Only. The word sat beside her name like a locked gate. Surplus permit route, Alaric ordered. The archive keeper read. Remaining F12 Brinehide stock released from Patrol Procurement Review to Patrol Surplus Desk. Surplus classification. Irregular, unsuitable for uniform royal issue. Permit sale. Approved to North Quarry Hunt Company. Use category. Private winter hunting gear. Non-patrol. Valen Orst's voice was steady. Irregular stock cannot outfit a patrol evenly. Private companies buy remnants for smaller contracts. That is lawful. Lawful, Maren said. Does not tell us why irregular was strong enough for hunters and unnecessary for wolves. The scribe's quill paused. Alaric did not forbid the entry. Who classified the stock as irregular? The king asked. Material assessor Bren Holt first noted irregular cuts after North Brine recovery. Later surplus classification confirmed by procurement clerk Joran Vale. Patrol surplus desk processed sale. Oversight line signed by quartermaster Sella Breck for storage release. Sella Breck stiffened. Storage release only, Your Majesty. I did not negotiate sale price or material use. Scope, Maren said quietly. No one corrected her. Sale price, Alaric said. The keeper swallowed. Above standard salvage rate. 3 times brine leather value. Paid in full by North Quarry Hunt Company. A murmur ran through the handlers. The number was not gilt. Money rarely confessed. But it did show that the same material called inefficient for patrol survival became valuable when it left the patrol. Valen's jaw tightened. High-grade remnants can command private prices and still be impractical for uniform issue. That may be true, Maren said. Several guards looked at her, startled that she did not seize the easier accusation. She kept her hand on Bracken's shoulder. Then the record should show why the patrol bought cheaper uniform gear without testing whether uniform was safer than fitted. Alaric's eyes cut toward the approval sheet. North Quarry equipment file. A runner was sent to the outer storehouse, where hunt permits were kept for border companies. While they waited, Maren changed the dressing on the young white wolf's tendon bruise. The salve steamed less now. That was good. Not enough, but good. The file arrived, wrapped in oilcloth. North Quarry Hunt Company purchase record. F12 Brinehide converted into storm gaiters, claw wraps, and heel guards for private quarry runs. Maker listed, Harrowfell Tackhouse. Field note attached after quarry season. Material held under glass. Salt exposure. No strap fracture recorded. The yard went very quiet. Alaric looked at Valen. The private hunter's field tested it? The keeper read the note again. Quarry run exposure, 4 storms, no strap fracture. Not a Royal Patrol Stormfield test. Private performance note only. Maren felt the difference before anyone had to say it. Private note did not prove royal standard. It only proved someone outside the patrol cared enough to write down what weather did to the material. Pattern 7 used lower-cost brine leather instead, Alaric said. Yes, Your Majesty. And no Stormfield test. No Stormfield test attached. Valen stepped forward. Your Majesty, private quarry runs are not border patrols. Hunters outfit smaller teams. They can accept irregular fitting. Maren looked at him then. Exactly. The single word crossed the yard cleaner than anger. Valen stopped. Smaller fitting, she said. Living adjustment. Material match to use. That is what my braces were called private for doing. The scribe wrote quickly. Alaric's hand closed on the edge of the permit file. His knuckles whitened, but he did not apologize. The record was not ready for his shame. Who received proceeds from the surplus sale? He asked. The keeper turned the permit. Payment entered to Patrol Supply Reserve. Reserve expense after sale. Pattern 7 procurement deposit paid from same reserve account 3 days later. That did not prove the sale funded bad gear by design. It proved the money from Stormhide surplus moved into the account that later paid for standard issue. Valen, Alaric said, did your final approval packet include the North Quarry performance note? No, Valen answered. It was private permit material, not Royal Patrol evidence. Did procurement review hold it? The keeper checked the index. Filed in surplus archive. Cross, reference to F12 lot. Not attached to Pattern 7 review. A cross-reference not carried forward. Another useful absence. Maren bent over Bracken's paw, pressing the wool more firmly into place. Her voice remained even. A record does not stop mattering because it is shelved under another name. Then the young white wolf tried to rise and collapsed with a sharp cry. Maren moved before anyone else. Hold her shoulder. Not the paw. She is splitting the tendon bruise. Alaric stepped forward, then stopped himself at the edge of her work. The restraint was better than rescue. Barely. The patrol healer obeyed Maren's instructions, and the wolf settled, shaking. Only then did Maren look at the table again. Next record, she said, should be Pattern 7 material purchase. If the patrol sold strong irregular stormhide and bought uniform brine leather, the file must show who decided uniform mattered more than stormproof. Alaric turned the page. The purchase order bore one line at the bottom. Stormfield trial, waived due prior material reference and yard durability standard. Prior material reference, not F12 used in the gear, not proof of theft, but a reference good enough to waive testing while the actual stronger material had already been sold away. The next question was no longer whether private hunters valued what patrol had discarded. It was who used that discarded value to excuse a test the wolves needed. The Stormfield trial waiver did not prove anyone had meant for the patrol wolves to bleed. It only proved a reference to stronger material had been used to excuse testing weaker gear. Maren Thorne heard the sentence before the scribe wrote it. Prior material reference. Yard durability standard. Stormfield trial waived. 3 clean phrases, each polished enough to pass through a king's hand without leaving blood on his fingers. Around the treatment mats, the wolves breathed in uneven sleep beneath boiled wool and resin dressings. Bracken's paw had stopped steaming. The young white wolf's tendon bruise had not split further. Stabilized, not healed. Saved from worsening, not saved from what had already been done. Alaric Voss stood over the purchase order. He had not crossed the floor to Maren. He had not returned her fitting authority. He had not punished Valen Orst. He only looked at the waiver line as if it had become a door in his own palace, locked from the inside. Who signed the Stormfield trial waiver? He asked. The procurement clerk bent over the purchase order, prepared by procurement clerk Jaw and veil. Material justification attached. Waiver accepted under patrol procurement review. Yard approval route carried forward by Patrol Master Valen Orst. Name the material justification, Alaric said. The clerk read, prior reference to F12 Brinehide performance and flat ice yard durability of pattern 7. Conclusion. Stormfield trial. Unnecessary before first issue. Maren kept her hand on Bracken's shoulder. F12 did not become pattern 7. No, the scribe said. F12 was reference material only, and the field performance note came from private quarry use, she said. The scribe looked to Alaric. The king nodded. Enter it. Valen's voice remained careful. Reference material can inform design without being identical to final stock. That is ordinary procurement. Ordinary, Maren said, is not the same as sufficient. No one smiled this time. Joran Vale was brought forward from the supply archive, a thin man with ink on his cuffs and sleepless fear in his face. Fear was not guilt. Maren reminded herself of that before the yard could forget it. I prepared the waiver from the packet given to me, Joran said. The F12 note was listed as proof that Stormhide-based designs had weather history. Pattern 7 had passed yard drag. The revised standard allowed substitution. Did you compare F12 to the lower-cost brine leather? Alaric asked. I compared listed categories, Your Majesty. Winter hide. Resin treated. Patrol sole application. Maren closed her eyes once. Categories could make unlike things stand beside each other until a careless reader thought they were kin. Did you compare tendon behavior under living weight? Alaric asked. No. That was not required by the revised standard. Not required again. The phrase had become a second wound. Celebrec spoke from near the crates. My office received the final purchase request after waiver acceptance. I certified that enough sets could be stored, counted, and issued. I did not certify the field test. Did you see the private quarry performance note? Alaric asked. No, Your Majesty. I saw only the material justification summary. A summary beneath a summary. Absence folded small enough to fit a crown packet. Maren looked down at Bracken's wrapped paw. The wolves were issued conclusions, not tests. The scribe entered it. Valen's eyes moved toward her. If every procurement clerk must run a storm before ordering gear, the border will freeze waiting. If every storm is treated as paperwork after the wolves return wounded, the border will lose what protects it, she answered. Alaric lifted one hand. The argument stopped. Pattern 7 first. Issue authorization. The scribe read from a narrower sheet. First issue approved for Dusk Patrol pending routine performance report after 3 runs. Maren's head rose. After 3 runs? Valen answered. Performance reviews follow issue. That is standard. 3 runs in glass. Salt wind before anyone measures tendon cuts. Before any pattern is revised. She did not step toward him. She did not raise her voice. A dead wolf can complete a review by absence. Alaric looked at the wounded mats. His expression went colder. No further pattern, 7 issue. It is already suspended, Valen said. No, the king said. It is barred until storm field testing is restored to the approval standard. The order moved through the yard like heat under ice. It protected the next patrol. It did not restore Maren. It did not correct her humiliation. The scribe entered the distinction because Maren requested it with one glance, and because Alaric did not forbid him. Technical witness only. King's summary route, Alaric said. The Crown Kennel clerk opened the transmission page. Border Supply Desk sent recommendation to Crown Kennel Office. Crown Kennel Office condensed approval for royal decision. Source notes retained at Supply Desk. Attachments not forwarded unless requested. Was the waiver forwarded? Only as statement. Stormfield trial. Not required. Under revised standard. A summary could make absence sound like approval, Maren said again, but softer now, because repetition had become evidence, not complaint. Then the patrol healer called her back. Bracken's dressing had slipped. Maren turned away from the purchase order without permission. Her authority over the wolves remained practical, even when the record refused to name it. She reset the dressing, pressed warmth back under the heel, and waited until the old wolf's breathing steadied again. When she returned, Alaric was reading the bottom of the material justification. "What is this mark?" he asked. Joran Vale leaned forward. Cross-reference seal. It shows the F12 note was accepted as supporting weather history. Accepted by whom? The scribe read the mark carefully. Patrol Procurement Review Desk. Countersigned by Patrol Master Office for field relevance. Valen said at once. Office countersign. Not personal design approval. Maren nodded. Then the office must show who decided a private hunter's weather note could stand where a patrol stormfield test should have been. The cross-reference seal did not prove Valen had sold the stormhide. It did not prove Joran had hidden the difference. It did not prove Seller had certified more than storage. It proved only that the waiver had borrowed weather history from material the wolves never received, and the next record would have to show why that borrowed history was good enough for the king, but not good enough to protect the patrol. The borrowed weather history did not prove Valen Orst had lied to the crown. It only proved Pattern 7 had borrowed trust from stormhide the patrol wolves never wore. Maren Thorne heard the old wolf breathe before she heard the scribe turn the page. That was how a yard should have been judged, not by seals, not by smooth leather lined in crates, not by a king's summary packet, but by whether the animals sent into border storms came back with breath, still steady in their chests. Bracken slept under boiled wool with one paw raised on folded blankets. The younger wolves still trembled when the wind struck the gate. Stabilized, not healed. The record could move because Maren had kept them alive long enough for men to read. Alaric Voss stood over the cross-reference seal. Field, relevance, countersign, root it. The procurement clerk read from the waiver packet. Material justification prepared by Joran Vale. Prior weather history accepted from F12 Brinehyde private quarry note. Cross-reference entered at Patrol Procurement Review. Field relevance countersigned through Patrol Master Office by Field Clerk Arlen Mott. Valen's eyes narrowed. Arlen Mott processes field comparisons. He does not issue final command. No, Maren said from beside Bracken. He tells the packet what kind of field it is allowed to count. The scribe entered it after one glance at Alaric. Arlen Mott was brought from the record room, with his sleeves rolled to the elbow and a smear of blue wax on his wrist. He looked less like a conspirator than a man who had expected to spend the night counting root slates and now found every number breathing. I countersigned the relevance line, he said. The private quarry note described 4 storms. Glass, salt exposure, no strap fracture. It was field weather. Was it patrol weather? Alaric asked. Arlen swallowed. Not Royal Patrol formation. Smaller team, shorter load, no injured return noted. Maren looked down at the issued strap they had cut from Bracken's paw. No tendon. Load comparison. No. No full claw spread run. No. No wounded wolf carrying duty weight across a border route. No. Valen spoke carefully. The revised standard did not require identical conditions. It required sufficient weather reference. Sufficient for a paper, Maren said. Not for a paw. The line settled into the yard without drama. Even the young guards seemed too tired to resent it. Who approved Arlen Mott's countersign? Alaric asked. The clerk checked the lower corner. Reviewed under Patrol Master Office weekly packet. Office approval mark entered by Patrol Master Valen Orst. Valen did not flinch. Weekly packet review. I reviewed summarized field relevance, not every raw note. Again. Summary. Again. Distance. Was the raw North Quarry note attached? Alaric asked. Retained in surplus archive, the clerk answered. Referenced, not attached. Was F12 material comparison attached? Referenced, not attached. Was Maren Thorne's pressure ledger attached? No, Your Majesty. Maren did not close her eyes this time. She wanted every absence to see her looking. Alaric turned to the royal summary. Then my approval rested on yard inspection, cost reduction, and borrowed weather history from material not issued to the wolves. The scribe hesitated over the force of it. Write it, Alaric said. Not apology, not restoration. But the sentence took weight from Maren's shoulders and put it where a crown could not ignore it. Valen's voice sharpened at the edges. Your Majesty, procurement cannot function if every referenced note must be attached to every royal packet. Then procurement must decide which references carry risk, Maren said. A storage count can be summarized. A missing storm test cannot. Arlen Mott's face changed. Not guilt. Recognition, perhaps, of a small line made large by bloodless wounds. There is a risk mark, he said. Valen turned toward him. Arlen, the field clerk lifted both hands. It is only a routing mark, not a finding. Read it, Alaric ordered. Arlen pointed to the back of the relevant slip. The scribe turned it over. Risk notation. Quarry weather not equal to patrol load. Recommend field observation after first issue. Maren's hand tightened on Bracken's blanket. After first issue. Routine performance report after 3 runs, the scribe said. 3 runs again. 3 chances for salt to enter tendon before a record admitted weather had met flesh. Who removed before issue observation? Alaric asked. Arlen shook his head. I did not remove it. It was left as after-issue performance language when the waiver passed review. By whose review? The packet gave no single name. Patrol Procurement Review Desk. Weekly packet approval. Crown summary prepared after acceptance. Not one hand. A row of desks. A wound could be made by a corridor if every door opened away from it. The patrol healer called softly, and Maren turned back as Bracken stirred. His paw had begun to bleed red at last through the dressing. Red was better than glass salt white. Red meant the flesh still had warmth to give. She pressed clean cloth under the heel and did not let herself shake. Alaric watched her hands, and for a moment the old border shelter stood between them, his skin blue with frostbite, her voice telling him pain was not weakness if it was answered in time. He looked away before memory could become mercy. Old royal fitting record, he said. Maren's head lifted. The royal clerk found it in her ledger index. Alaric Voss, pre-crown border shelter fitting. Condition: frostbite risk, heel swelling, claw, spread instability under salt wind. Stormsole required. Field retest before patrol return. The yard was very still. Alaric had not needed her work because it was pretty. He had needed it because his body had once obeyed the same weather as every wolf in the yard. Does this alter Lady Thorne's status? The scribe asked. No, Alaric said, and the word cut clean. Technical witness only until the approval route is complete. Maren accepted it because accuracy mattered more than comfort. Then Arlen Mott, still pale, added one last sentence. The after-issue performance report was assigned to the next patrol master's review cycle. Which patrol master? Alaric asked. The scribe read the cycle sheet. Valen Orst. Review due after 3 storm runs. The record did not prove Valen designed the failure. It proved he was the man scheduled to measure the wounds after the wolves had earned them. The review cycle did not prove Valen Orst had designed the wolves' suffering. It proved Pattern 7 had been allowed to learn from wounds instead of preventing them. Maren Thorne kept her hand under Bracken's wrapped paw while the cycle sheet was opened. The old wolf's blood had come back red now, seeping slowly through clean cloth where glass salt whiteness had been. Red meant warmth. Red meant the flesh had not fully surrendered. It did not mean he could stand. It did not mean the next storm would wait politely while officials decided which form could carry pain. Around him, the patrol yard had become a sick room with banners still hanging above it, as if royal cloth could hide the smell of resin, boiled wool, and injured wolves. Alaric Voss stood over the review cycle sheet. He had not apologized. He had not restored Maren's fitting authority. He had only ordered the paper read because it named Valen as the man scheduled to measure the injuries after 3 runs. Performance review template, Alaric said. The scribe read from the patrol issue packet. Pattern 7 after issue review. First run. Note unusual refusals, visible strap breakage, or total inability to complete route. Second run. Compare gait consistency and gear settling. Third run. Submit performance score and recommended adjustment. Maren looked up. Where are tendon bruises entered? The scribe searched. Under visible injury if route completion is impaired. Salt bite beneath heel. Under visible injury if bleeding or collapse occurs. Claw. Spread numbness? The scribe looked longer. No specific line. No specific line, she repeated. Valen's face remained controlled. Minor discomfort is common when gear changes. A review cycle prevents overcorrection after one difficult run. A wolf should not have to collapse before the paper admits the gear is hurting him, Maren said. The patrol healer, still kneeling near the white wolf, spoke before fear could stop him. Several injuries would not have been reportable under the first-run template if Lady Thorne had not cut the straps away. The skin had not opened red yet. The scribe entered it. Valen looked toward the healer. Your duty is treatment, not procurement interpretation. My duty is to say whether a wound exists, the healer answered. It does. Not accusation. Condition. Alaric's eyes moved from wolf to wolf. Who receives first? Run notes. Patrol Master Office, the scribe said. Compiled by route captain, reviewed at weekly performance cycle. Are treatment notes attached automatically? No, Your Majesty. Treatment notes remain in kennel infirmary unless requested. Maren's throat tightened. So the pause could be treated in one room and summarized as adjustment in another. No one answered quickly enough. The scribe wrote it. Route captain tonight, Alaric said. Captain Dan Holt stepped forward, still wearing storm ice on his beard. I would have filed route completed with injury observation, Your Majesty. Before we saw the chalk comparison, I would not have known the pattern repeated. Would you have attached Maren's pressure ledger? No, it is not part of standard issue review. Technical witness only. Useful hands. Excluded records. Alaric turned to the royal clerk. If the first run had been filed without tonight's inquiry, what would reach the crown? The clerk read the reporting ladder. Nothing unless route failure, death, or formal third-run adjustment. First-run injury summaries remain in Patrol Master review. The yard seemed to grow colder. Then 3 runs could pass before I saw the damage, Alaric said. Unless the Patrol Master escalated, the clerk answered. Every eye moved toward Valen. Maren did not let hers follow. Escalation is not the same as evidence required to travel. Alaric looked at her then, and for the first time that night, the king seemed to understand that she was not defending Valen. She was defending the record from becoming revenge too soon. Thresholds, Alaric said. Read injury thresholds for escalation. The scribe read slowly. Immediate escalation required for death, missing limb, total route failure, or equipment fracture affecting more than half the patrol. The handlers stared down at the wolves. Half the patrol had not needed to break for the suffering to be real. That was the cruelty of a threshold built for numbers, not bodies. Tonight? Alaric asked. Equipment fracture affects 9 of 30 straps, the scribe said. Below half. Route completed. No deaths. Under template. Escalation discretionary. Valen's voice was low. And I would have escalated. Would you? Alaric asked. Yes, Your Majesty. With so many injuries, yes. The answer might have been true. It still came after Maren had forced the pressure maps into the room. Private quarry note, Maren said. Alaric turned back to her. She kept her fingers steady under Bracken's paw. When North Quarry Field tested F12, who received their performance note, the surplus keeper found the file. Submitted to Patrol Surplus Desk as Buyer Satisfaction Report. Copied to Patrol Procurement Review because F12 was listed as reference material. Did it include injury thresholds? She asked. No. It recorded material held under exposure. No strap fracture. No quarry hound paw injury. Quarry hounds had paw injury lines, she said. The keeper checked again. Yes. Private note included paw condition. Silence moved through Brinefall, heavier than storm. Private hunters had recorded paw condition on purchased stormhide. Royal Patrol wolves had been given a template that waited for collapse, death, or half the gear breaking. Alaric's face hardened into something older than anger. Who removed paw condition from Pattern 7 first run review? The scribe compared templates. Earlier patrol brace review forms carried paw condition, tendon warmth, and heel salt packing. Revised standard replaced them with root completion and visible injury. Revision author. Alaric said. Patrol procurement review, performance, cycle update. Prepared by Joran Vale. Approved through Patrol Master Office. Valen spoke at once. Office approval. The old forms were too slow for standard issue. Maren looked at the sleeping wolves. Pain is slow when you are trying not to see it. The sentence landed without mercy, because it had none to spare. Then Captain Dan Holt lifted a cut strap from tonight's failed gear. Your Majesty, there is a stamped lot mark inside the lining. I did not see it until the leather thawed. The sealmaster scraped salt from the mark. B low 4. Brine leather low-grade winter stock. Celebrec frowned. Pattern 7 purchase order. Listed mid-grade brine leather. Not proof of theft. Not proof of Valen's hand. But the gear on the wolves was not the grade the purchase order named. The next record would have to show who changed mid-grade leather into low-grade stock before the patrol bled for the difference. The low-grade leather hidden inside Pattern 7 did not prove who had chosen it. It proved the wolves had been issued something weaker than the purchase order allowed. Maren Thorne did not look at Valen Orst. Not yet. The yard wanted her eyes to accuse him. The handlers wanted one man to become the shape of every wounded paw so their own silence could stand outside the blame. Even Alaric Voss, rigid beside the evidence table, seemed to hold the next breath of the kingdom in his teeth. But Maren had watched too many official deaths become weather, delay, bad luck, and widow's grief, because someone reached for conclusion before custody could hold it. Material receipt, she said. The scribe looked to Alaric. Read it, the king ordered. Celebrec brought the storage receipt with both hands. Pattern 7, material delivery. Purchase order lists mid-grade brine leather, winter treated, batch M3, quantity 40, 7 patrol sets and replacement stock. Received at Brinefall supply stores by Quartermaster Station. Who signed receipt? Alaric asked. Seller's face tightened. My station mark is present, but not my hand. Receiving clerk Ivan Dorr signed under Quartermaster authority. Bring Ivan Dorr. While a guard went for him, the sealmaster laid the thawed strap beside the purchase order. The inner mark remained ugly and clear. B low 4, low-grade winter stock. Not the leather named for the wolves. Not the leather the king had approved. Not the leather even Valen's summary had claimed would serve. Valen spoke carefully. Batch marks can be misread after salt damage. The sealmaster shook his head. This one is cut into the lining before treatment. Salt did not make it. Maren kept her hand beneath Bracken's paw. The old wolf breathed through pain, steady because she held the angle of his leg where the tendon would not pull. The record could move only because the bodies did not. That was the truth men kept forgetting. Even Dorr arrived pale and shivering. I received sealed crates, he said before anyone asked. The outer tags read M3. Did you open the crates? Alaric asked. No, Your Majesty. Inspection was by count and seal, standard for approved military issue. Who broke the crate seals before fitting? Maren asked. Valen answered. Patrol gear room, under my office. Name, Alaric said. The gear room ledger was opened. Crates opened by gear clerk Osric Pell. Checked by patrol master office assistant. No material regrade requested. Osric Pell was not in the yard. He had gone with the outer search patrol, someone said. The absence was entered without drama. Crate seal record, Alaric ordered. The scribe read, Outer seal, M. 3 delivery. Inner bundle mark, not inspected at receipt. Gear room release. Pattern 7 approved. No variance noted. No variance noted. Another phrase that meant no one had looked where weakness lived. Alaric drew a sharp breath over the storage page. There is a transfer note after receipt. Alaric turned. Read it. Mid-grade brine leather overage. Reassigned for emergency hunter, road contract. Equivalent low-grade winter stock, substituted for patrol sets, under supply balancing. Notation. No field difference expected under yard durability standard. The yard seemed to lose sound. Valen stepped forward. Supply balancing occurs when border contracts conflict. The standard allowed equivalent winter stock if yard tests passed. Equivalent, Maren said, is a word that should not be allowed near tendon without a stormfield test. The scribe wrote it. Who approved substitution? Alaric asked. The line held 3 marks. Prepared by border supply desk. Material equivalency note by procurement clerk Joran Vale. Field sufficiency accepted through patrol master office. Personal signature? Maren asked. The scribe turned the page. Office mark only. Valen's voice remained controlled, but thinner now. Office marks do not place my hand on a crate. No, she said. They place your office between the crate and the wolves. That was enough for now. Hunter, road contract, Alaric said. The surplus keeper opened the private contract ledger. North Quarry Hunt Company. Emergency winter road contract. Received mid-grade brine leather M. 3 overage, plus prior stormhide references. Paid premium transport fee. Stormhide references? Alaric asked. The keeper swallowed. F12 performance note attached to justify Hunter road priority. Maren felt the old pattern tighten. Merritt's recovered stormhide had become reference. The reference had excused a missing test. The missing test had permitted cheaper gear, and the stronger material named on the purchase order had moved toward private hunters. Still not murder. Still not confession, but no longer accident enough to stand clean. Where is North Quarry's current storage? Alaric asked. Old salt warehouse beyond the East Causeway, the keeper said. Leased under private winter permit, Valen said sharply. Private stores are outside Royal Patrol custody, unless seizure is warranted. Alaric looked at the wounded wolves. Issue a preservation order. No seizure, no accusation, no material leaves that warehouse until batch marks are read. That was law. Cold. Slow. Useful. Maren bowed her head once over Bracken's paw. Not gratitude. Agreement with the only kind of order that could survive challenge. Then Captain Dan Holt returned from the gear room carrying a torn inner crate tag. Your Majesty, he said. This was wedged beneath the Pattern 7 release shelf. The scribe took it with tongs. Outer face. M. 3. Inner face, where it had been folded back and hidden from receipt inspection. B. Low 4. The record did not prove Valen had folded the tag. It did not prove Osric Pell had swapped the crates. It did not prove Joran Vale had known what the wolves would suffer. It proved the substitution had been disguised before the gear reached the fitting line. Alaric's voice went low. And the mid-grade stock? Alaric checked the transfer ledger with shaking hands. Marked delivered to North Quarry warehouse this afternoon. Maren looked at Bracken's wounded paw, then at the gate where the storm still breathed. The next question was not whether Pattern 7 had failed. It was whether the leather strong enough for private hunters was sitting warm in a warehouse while royal wolves bled on the ice. The preservation order did not accuse North Quarry of theft. It only froze the warehouse long enough for the leather to answer before men could move it out of reach. Alaric Voss sent no soldiers with drawn blades. That mattered. A raid would have given every guilty office a chance to call the night panic. Instead, he sent a royal seal master, Sella Breck, 2 neutral handlers, the archive keeper, and Maren Thorne, under the same status that had followed her like a chain since the first wolf fell. Technical witness only. The words still stood beside her name when they crossed the east causeway through salt, wind, and black ice. Bracken remained in the yard, under healer watch, stabilized, not healed. The other wolves slept under boiled wool. None of them could follow. Their suffering had brought the records this far. The living would have to carry them the rest of the way. The North Quarry warehouse stood warm behind barred doors, its windows yellow with banked furnace light. Inside, rolls of leather hung from iron hooks in careful rows. Mid-grade brine stock, winter-treated panels. Stormhide remnants, dark as old thunder. Material strong enough to wait indoors while patrol wolves lay bleeding on ice. The seal master began with batch marks. M3, he read from the first rack. Mid-grade brine leather. Quantity matches patrol purchase overage. Seller's hand tightened around her ledger. That was supposed to remain available for Pattern 7 patrol sets. The warehouse steward bowed stiffly. Received under emergency hunter. Road contract. All papers sealed. No one said the papers were missing, Maren said. We are asking what they moved. The next rack held smaller panels, irregularly cut. Old resin still shining in the seams. The seal master scraped frost dust from the edge. F12 brine hide. Ferro. Thorn fitting lot. Maren did not touch it. Merit's root did not rise from the leather. No ghost spoke. No hidden power crowned her grief. Only a batch mark survived where men had expected memory to fail. Inventory comparison, Alaric ordered. The archive keeper read, recovered F12 stock after North Brine route. 4 heel panels, 6 tendon guards, 2 claw spread strips. Procurement retained 2 panels. Remaining stormhide released under private salvage permit. The sealmaster counted the rack. 4 heel panels, 6 tendon guards, 2 claw spread strips. The warehouse had them all. Seller looked up sharply. Then procurement did not retain the 2 panels it claimed. The steward's face went pale. We received what the permit listed. Permit copy, Alaric said. The copy was produced. Its lower seal bore patrol surplus authorization, but beneath it lay an older receipt mark scraped thin and resealed. Layered seal, the seal master said. Original release amended after approval. Who amended it? Alaric asked. The mark was faint, but not gone. Patrol master. Office surplus authority. Countersign. Valen Orst. No gasp. No confession. No dramatic denial that could take the place of proof. Valen was not there to perform innocence. His office mark was. Alaric's voice stayed cold. Continue. The payment ledger showed premium transport fees from North Quarry routed into the patrol supply reserve. 3 days later, that same reserve paid the Pattern 7 deposit. The purchase order, named M3, the crates delivered to the wolves carried Below 4 inside folded tags. The stronger M3 sat warm in a private warehouse. The old F12 stock, once declared irregular and partly retained for review, had been fully released under an amended permit. Together, the records did not show one careless mistake. They showed value traveling away from patrol paws while risk stayed behind. Maren finally spoke. This does not tell us who folded the crate tag. No, the scribe said. It does not tell us who knew Bracken would split open. No, it does not reopen Merit's death as murder. No, Lady Thorne. Then write what it does show. Alaric looked at her then, and for the first time, he did not look away before command hardened his face. "Write it." The scribe entered the finding. Material custody, diverted high-grade and mid-grade stock from patrol use. Weaker stock reached active issue under hidden inner marks. Stormfield testing was waived through borrowed weather history. Prior route failures, including Maren Thorne's, contained gear condition language that had not been tested against fitting records. The warehouse seemed quieter after that, as if truth had weight enough to press sound down. By dawn, Brinefall Storm Yard was full. Handlers, guards, old route captains, procurement clerks, wounded wolves, and the Alpha King stood before the evidence table. Valen Orst stood under guard restraint, not as condemned traitor, but as relieved patrol master, pending full inquiry. Joran Vale, Halvan Rusk, Osric Pell, and the surplus desk officers were ordered held as material witnesses. North Quarry's private permits were frozen. Alaric turned to the yard. "I trusted yard inspection over Stormfield evidence," he said. "I accepted a summary that removed the pressure ledger, the field test warning, and the living knowledge of the woman who had kept our wolves walking. I allowed Maren Thorne's work to be humiliated as private fitting when it was patrol survival record. The words did not beg forgiveness. They did something harder. They stood where his command had stood. Maren Thorne's fitting authority is restored before the patrol wolves, handlers, guards, procurement office, and crown. No winter patrol gear will issue without Stormfield testing, pore pressure mapping, tendon relief review, and fitter countersign from those who work the living animals." Maren's throat closed, but she did not bow too quickly. She looked first to Bracken. The old wolf lifted his head, tired and fierce, and set one wrapped paw down without collapsing. Only then did she step across the yard line. "Maren Thorne's route record," Alaric said, quieter but still public, "will be corrected, not cleared, not solved beyond evidence. Corrected to state that gear fracture, heel salt bite, missing field test attachment, and recovered material custody remain material factors under reopened patrol inquiry." Maren closed her eyes once. It was not her husband returned. It was not every answer. It was the first honest sentence placed where weather had buried him. The stormsole patrol braces were brought from the discarded rack and set beside the new law. Not relics, not widow craft. Lawful survival gear. After the orders were sealed, Alaric stopped at the edge of her work mat. He did not touch her. He did not lower his voice enough to hide. "I kept my weakness warm in your hands once," he said. "Then I let the court call that wisdom private when it belonged to the patrol." Maren looked at him over Bracken's bandaged paw. "Do not protect me in private." His answer came without hesitation. "No, I will protect the record in public." That was not love yet. Not the soft kind. But when the next storm bell rang, no wolf moved until Maren lifted the first brace, checked the pressure chalk, and gave the order herself.